May the words of my mouth and the meditation of each of our hearts be acceptable to you this day, O God, our rock and our Redeemer. Even if you never listen to popular music, you likely still know who Taylor Swift is, and you might recognize a song or two of hers. At 33, Swift has been in the fickle music business for nearly 2 decades. She's suffered some big setbacks, but right now seems to be at the top of her game. When our financial advisor was over for a meeting a few weeks ago, she told us that she hated to rush off, but she had to get home to pick up her daughter for their date to go see Swift's Eras Tour film with a bunch of other 7-year-olds and their mothers. Both Taylor Swift's cultural and financial power are extraordinary. Even the Federal Reserve has noted the economic effect that occurs in many cities when her tour arrives in town. Many people have analyzed her appeal, and just this week, Swift was named Time Magazine's Person of the Year. In the article announcing the news, Time writer Sam Lansky wrote, "Maybe this is the real Taylor Swift effect, that she gives people, many of them women, particularly girls, who have been conditioned to accept dismissal, gaslighting, and mistreatment from a society that treats their emotions as inconsequential, permission to believe that their interior lives matter. That for your heart to break, whether it's from being kicked off a tour or by the memory of a scarf still sitting in a drawer somewhere, or because somebody else controls your life's work, it's a valid wound. And no, you're not crazy for being upset about it or for wanting your story to be told." A young woman recently wrote on Facebook about Swift, responding to those who criticize her for writing so many songs about relationships. This fan noted, quote, "Men are still trying to tell me my feelings don't matter. But since I was 14 years old, Taylor has been telling me that they do. So when people ask me why I care so much about someone I don't know, they don't understand that she really is all of our best friend. Friends who make you feel this much less alone and who stick around for such a long time are hard to find. If you're still hating on Taylor, check your internalized misogyny," she says. "Women were never meant to be this powerful. Thank God they are." Taylor Swift captures something in her songwriting and in her persona that both Mary and Elizabeth also understood, that the best way to cope with overwhelming circumstances is to do so by connecting to other people. And the best way to make those important connections is to be willing to be vulnerable and authentic. Why else would a young girl of 13 or 14 years old rush off to see her older cousin after receiving astonishing news from the angel Gabriel that she will bear God's son? And why did Elizabeth, who had isolated herself for the first 5 months of her pregnancy, invite Mary to stay with her for several months? In fact, this beautiful story of 2 women who were both lowly and shamed offers us a roadmap for finding joy. First, Elizabeth, shamed and cast aside throughout her life because she was barren, learns that despite her age, she will give birth to a son. Afraid of further rejection, she withdraws and spends the first months of her pregnancy in seclusion. When an angel appears to Mary and announces that she too will bear a son, she is overwhelmed. In a matter of minutes, Gabriel makes a series of pronouncements intended to fill Mary with joy, but none of these reassured her or relieved her anxiety. It's only when Gabriel shared the news that Elizabeth also had conceived miraculously that Mary accepted this announcement. Knowing that another woman, someone she knew well, would walk with her on this uncertain journey mattered more to Mary than any other of the grand promises the angel made. Wanting affirmation, empathy, and companionship, Mary set off to see Elizabeth. Despite knowing that the news that she is pregnant before marriage could hurt her reputation and even cause her to lose her life, she chose not to keep this revelation a secret. She chose to attempt to manage the work with someone else rather than trying to do everything herself. She sought someone who could celebrate the work of God in her life, who would love instead of judge her, offer nourishment instead of condemnation. And that's exactly how Elizabeth, even her unborn son, responded. When Mary appeared at the door, even before she shared her story, John began pointing the way toward Jesus when he leapt in his mother's womb. And Elizabeth proclaimed Mary the mother of my Lord before Mary ever even told her that she was pregnant. Rather than meeting this astonishing news with judgment, shame, or ostracism, Elizabeth greeted Mary with honor. By choosing to reach out to Elizabeth rather than isolating herself, Mary and her cousin find a connection that enables them to rejoice. Finding the courage to face the vulnerability of her situation and then opening herself to another woman in a similar circumstance, Mary came to understand the claim of our faith, that in Jesus, God comes to be one of us and experienced the full scope of human emotion. To whom do you run when you have joy to share, or even when you have weariness? Call out. That was your question to ponder in the good news this week. To whom do you turn when you have something you want to share? Mom. Mom is often the one, isn't it? Spouse, often another one, a popular one. Barb. A good friend, someone that you know you can trust. I hope everyone has at least one or two people to whom they can turn. The power of choosing connection and vulnerability over trying to manage alone is made clear in an episode I watched recently of the wonderful BBC show Call the Midwife. This drama is set in a poor neighborhood of London in the mid-20th century and follows the lives of midwives who help struggling families to deliver their babies. In this particular episode, we encounter Dr. Turner, a veteran of World War II who still suffers PTSD from his war experiences. This hardworking doctor is weary as can be because the demands of his job are so large when he seeks to care for so many people in need in his community. And one day, when a baby is born with a rare condition that he is slow to be able to diagnose, he berates himself and is exhausted and stressed, so much so that he can barely function. Seeing his stress, his wife orders him home to bed, but no amount of rest can return joy to his weary soul. After days of lying in bed in a deep funk, Dr. Turner wanders out of his room one morning to find a collection of cards and letters, of plants and baked goods. His teenage son shares a list of who brought what, telling his dad that people know and value what a good doctor he truly is. In the next scene, We find Dr. Turner back at work, helping to save the life of a woman suffering from diphtheria. His energy and passion have returned, and it seems he's been given a new lease on life. Of course, it wasn't the gifts themselves that catalyzed this transformation, but rather the connections that they represent. It is through the eyes and the show of love from others that Dr. Turner, just like many of us, is reminded that he is a beloved child of God. The stories of Mary and Elizabeth, and of pop icon Taylor Swift and a TV character named Dr. Turner, invite us to reflect on our own response to the ways that God is at work in our lives. Are we willing to seek each other out with trust and openness like Mary did? Can we receive one another with the tenderness of Elizabeth when someone comes to us seeking refuge and nurture? Might we be re-energized like Dr. Turner, or create connections as deep as those of Taylor Swift? In this Advent season, when so many things in our world today seem hopeless, may we, like Mary and Elizabeth, like Taylor Swift and Dr. Turner, deepen our sense of being part of a community that supports one another as we hope and wait. For it is there, surrounded and enveloped by others who care, that we are able to find true peace. Amen.